Well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about The Signal? Stick around and find out. Yeah, okay, that'll make more sense later on in the review. Hi, I'm Peter Franson from ChristianGeekCentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, here with an uncut review of The Signal. If you missed this one in theaters, it's available on Redbox right now, a bunch of other places, I'm sure. It's one that kind of slipped under my radar. I don't even think it got a big theatrical release, kind of an independent movie. Got a little bit of star power in Lawrence Fishburne. Anyway, here's what's going on here. The IMDb description for this one says that on a road trip, Nick and two friends are drawn to an isolated area by a computer genius. When everything suddenly goes dark, Nick regains consciousness only to find himself in a waking nightmare. But sometimes these IMDb descriptions are like way too vague, Really, the story is about these three friends, Nick and his girlfriend and their friend Jonah. And Nick and Jonah are both MIT students, and the MIT has recently been attacked by a hacker who goes by the name of Nomad. And basically, on a road trip to move his girlfriend away for a year, they take a slight detour to see if they can track down this hacker using the location of where his IP address leads, you know. And after that, they experience something, no spoilers, they experience something, and then wake up in some kind of a facility, and you could gather that much from the trailers, where Nick spends a lot of time talking to Lawrence Fishburne in a big ol' hazmat suit. And he's like a scientist working with these other scientists, and he's asking Nick all these questions, doing kind of tests on him, and you don't really know what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on, without giving away any spoilers, within the first, I think, 15 minutes, he discovers that something crazy has happened to him. Something that changes him forever. And the rest of the movie, he's trying to basically find answers and regain some sense of security and safety. He's completely under the watch and guard of these scientists, and he wants to become free of them. And so the rest of the movie is about him trying to find answers and trying to regain his freedom after this incident, which is a huge mystery for really most of the entire movie. So this is a kind of an indie sci-fi, I think it's independent, I'll call it indie sci-fi movie. It's paced somewhat like Moon. If you saw Moon, this will feel similar just in terms of its pacing. It has some quiet moments punctuated by intense ones and increasing human drama as the story unfolds. It's an eerie sci-fi drama with some times of suspense as well. The friend and girlfriend relationship, so the relationship with Nick and his friend Jonah and Nick and his girlfriend, I think could have been developed a little bit more so that I wanted to, I guess, have my heartstrings tugged at just a little bit more when they are being put through the ringer later on in the movie. And I feel like that would have been possible if we would have invested a little bit more time in fleshing out those relationships. I guess one way I would describe how that kind of fell short for me was I didn't know for about the first 10 minutes whether or not Nick and this girl he was with were dating or brother and sister. The way they were interacting, I can almost imagine as me kind of palling around and just being a little bit physically affectionate with my sister. But you learn 15 minutes in definitively that it's more of a dating type relationship. So that wasn't as clear. There's not a lot of dialogue at the beginning as they're establishing these relationships, and I think maybe it could have helped there. The pro, I guess, in that column is that because of these quiet moments where there's not much dialogue at the beginning, they're able to let the performances establish these relationships, establish these friendships. And what they do give us in those establishing scenes in the beginning is just wonderful. And I would say throughout the whole movie, it's shot in a way and the actors are given freedom in a way that allows them to have these quiet moments of of subtle realism in their portrayal of their characters. You know, it's just really nice how the movie allows them room to breathe. It doesn't require them to spit out their dialogue really fast and go from cut to cut to cut to cut to cut. You know, it slows down at times. Now that's not to say that it's boring. Far from it. I was interested the entire time, curious the entire time, and even in suspense at times as well. I will say that about an hour and 15 minutes in, it felt just a little bit slow for about maybe 5 minutes, and I think that was because they were reiterating mysteries and like, yeah, see, this is still a mystery, you know, rather than revealing new information. And at that point in the movie, I was like, okay, yeah, we've already established this mystery that we don't understand. You don't need to restate it. Instead, I'd like more information to be revealed at this point. But that didn't last too long. Like I said, the movie is never boring. Kept me curious the entire way through. Answers do come, but not until the last moments of the movie. And also, the answers are a little bit up for grabs in terms of like what, you know, I won't say anything. Let's say anything more than that. But all I'll say is this: not all the answers are spoon-fed to you, but you can make come to logical conclusions with just a moment or two of thought as the credits are rolling at the end. It's not like so weird and postmodern that you're just like, well, that was a waste of, you know, an hour and a half. You know, obviously the director doesn't even know what's going on. I don't think that's the case with this movie for the most part. I did think that Nick, our hero character, who I gotta say, he did a wonderful job, and in the first moments of the movie when we see him, it's easy to sympathize toward him. He's a nice guy. He's been dealt a difficult hand. He's recently fallen victim to a degenerative disease that is only going to get worse as time passes for him. But yet he's a guy that he just seems ready at any moment to help others, to think of others. So he's a guy that's easy to sympathize with. They do a great job of that at the beginning. There does seem to be a theme possibly throughout the movie of not trusting those who are in authority, rebelling against those who are older than you and not trusting them. But I felt that Nick was possibly unjustified in his fear and rebellion against Fishburne, Lawrence Fishburne, the scientist. Yeah, what did I say his name was? Anyway, never mind. Damon. And so anyway, yeah, I felt like he was unjustified because once he has this moment of realization of, oh my gosh, what has happened to me? I am seriously screwed up here. Something terrible has happened to me. Then if I were in his shoes, I felt like, okay, well, maybe, you know, this scientist isn't giving me all the information. They're not giving me all the answers I want, but they are the most qualified people around here to help me fix this crap that has been done to me, which is seriously screwed up, you know? And so I felt like his instinct to run away and to rebel and stuff like that, it wasn't as justified as I think it could have been in the movie. I wasn't feeling along with him. I was ready to discover at some point that he was completely unjustified in rebelling and being fearful with the scientists. But these are great, believable performances, I think, by all the actors. What else? Brenton Thwaites, I don't know if you know that name. He's got a familiar face to me. He plays Nick. Great job. Olivia Cook, don't know her from anywhere. She plays Haley, his girlfriend. Bo Knapp, or Knapp, is Jonah, his you know, uber geeky friend, and I love that, you know, maybe it's partly the way just he looks, and I'm sure partly the makeup, but I appreciate in independent films that they can cast more actors that maybe aren't super Hollywood beautiful, you know, and I felt like Bo Knapp just felt like somebody that I would be one of my friends, you know. Now, you know, Nick and Haley were cast by, you know, Hollywood pretty people, you know. I'd love to have a day someday when we can watch an entire movie and there's not a single Hollywood beautiful person in it. It's just a bunch of normal folks. Wouldn't that be cool? That would so immerse me in the story a whole lot more. But they don't want to sell me story. They want to sell me sex, and that's a whole different topic. Moving on. Lawrence Fishburne does a great job, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Stunts and visuals, okay? There's a few stunts, but let me talk about the visuals, really. The stunts are fine. There is infrequent but great use of visual effects in this movie. This is a great time, I think, for indie sci-fi movies, where you can watch an indie sci-fi movie that's going to be totally different and creative and unusual compared to what you would see in the movie theater in the summer or any other time of year put out by big Hollywood studios, and yet you're not going to have to suffer through bad visual effects and just kind of like, okay, we kind of have to forgive them because they're indie. You know, that is almost a thing entirely in the past these days with movies like Moon, and now I feel the same is true of this one. You know, there's just some really nice visual effects here. Cool use of slow motion in the action sequences. It's not an action movie, but there are some cool action pieces in the movie, and they use slow motion in great ways, and also some cool CG and stuff. It's all put to very good use. Very, very cool stuff. The music and sound, there's not a whole bunch to talk about there. It's kind of like a minimalistic piano and maybe a little bit of orchestra. There's not a lot musically going on. If anything, I would say piano and electronic music, but it's pretty minimal. It's a quiet feeling movie, despite again not being boring. In terms of relevance, stuff that you know, might have moral or philosophical significance that's worth thinking about, that might spark thought or might spark conversation about moral or philosophical issues. As I said, I think there is possibly the intended theme of distrusting authority or those older than you, which I kind of. My only caution there, I would say, with that attitude is let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that in a society, or let me just specifically talk about the church right now, because oftentimes, you know, what we'll see is older people that are like kind of just stuck in their way, and they're very traditionally minded, and they just really narrow and stuff, and they just aren't able to kind of intake and process and consider new ideas. You know, I think that in a community, and we'll say specifically a church community, that everyone is really pursuing growth and sanctification and relationship with Christ and understanding of Scripture, I think that the natural outflow of that is that we should look to our elders for wisdom because they've been around longer, they've been pursuing Christ longer, you know. But I mean, unfortunately, that's often not the case, you know. But I guess I would just say, you know, let's be careful not to get too excited and too on board and too sympathetic with a philosophy that says, boy, these old people, they don't know what they're talking about, you know, because a good number of them have a lot that we could learn from. So I always have mixed feelings when I see a theme in a movie or a fiction or anything like that that's kind of like, poo on people that are older than us, or poo on people that are in authority, because the Bible also tells us that we should submit to authority, provided that authority does not require us to do something counter to the commands of God. So anyway, that's just an interesting kind of thing to think through. But it's a pretty light theme. It's not really strong in this movie. It's just kind of like an impression, I guess, that I got. There are 3 direct references that I noticed to traditional Christianity in this movie, and they're all associated with creepiness. When the 3 heroes of the story, the young adults or whatever, are college age, whatever, are going through this shack in the desert to try and find the source of this hacker's signal, you know. It's this creepy abandoned shack, and the camera just, you know, it doesn't like whip past it really fast. It's noticeable. There's a little plaque that just says Jesus on it, you know. And I'm like, I wonder what they're saying there, you know, that this may be some weirdo Christian living out in the woods here, something like that. I was just like, why did they put that there? Because directors don't just haphazardly put things in front of their cameras. Well, I got to correct myself maybe, but I'll get to that thought in a second. But that's a little strange that a director would put something like that specifically there and not have something in mind that's representing, that's speaking to. So I was very curious about that. Let's see here. Oh, there's also a woman that they interact with who is clearly crazy insane. Like, I was waiting for something nuts visually to happen with this woman, just because she was, whoever they got to play this woman, and you'll know when you watch the movie if you see it, she was great. She was really odd. Eerie and odd is a great way to describe her. But anyway, she had like a little kind of like a Catholic art style looking Jesus picture, yeah, with like the traditional like yellow halo type things, and him doing like this, and he's like this really super Caucasian guy with like, you know, this beautiful wavy curly hair. And anyway, straight out of like a shampoo commercial. So, you know, so they were also attaching some form of Christianity to this crazy, creepy woman here. And then at the end, no spoilers, don't worry, when there's this crazy sci-fi revelation and it's kind of weird and what the crap is, then you've got Ave Maria playing as the score, and it's this electronic version of Ave Maria. And I still have no idea why that song was chosen for the score at that moment. Thematically, there's nothing to do. There's no kind of like Messiah theme going on there. There's no Virgin Mary theme. There's no Jesus theme. I don't get it. I have no idea why that was going on. So if you watch the movie, you let me know what you think was the reason for them putting that in there. In an interview that I read with the director after this, just trying to piece together a few loose ends in my mind, he did say that a theme that I didn't detect in this movie is that of the choice to embrace emotion over logic. That this was the journey of the main character to embrace his emotions and not just be led around by logic. You know, so again, I think emotions should absolutely be embraced, but I think they should be the response to how we logically view reality. We shouldn't view reality based on emotion. We should first view reality, determine in our minds what is true based on logical thinking, and then respond to what is real with our emotions. We're not meant to be cold human beings. We're not meant to be robots, you know, but I think the proper place of emotion comes after logical, rational thought in response to what we perceive through logical, rational thought. The director admitted also to making choices in the movie that were really about throwing off the audience rather than, say, motivated by an internal logic in the story of what was going on in the story. You know, one example of that is that when they're in this facility of some kind, this is clearly a story that's taking place in modern times. With modern technology, but then you'll see in the interview sequences with Lawrence Fishburne and Nick that he's using this old school cassette recorder to record things, and the director said that was thrown in there really just to throw people off. Now that's not, he didn't say that there was no internal logic for why they would be using that, and I think that when there's these little inconsistent moments of what is this going on here, this seems like a weird choice, I think you can, with just a little bit of imagination, say, oh, I can see why that might be going on there, you know. So it's not like crazy postmodern, you know, and nonsensical. Anyway, in summary, if I were talking to myself as a time traveler going back and saying, Peter, hey, let's talk about The Signal, I would say, Peter, this is a good movie. It's a thinking and a feeling experience, which you're a big fan of. If you like The Moon, which I know you did, you'll probably like this. Maybe not as much, but it's still definitely worth checking out. It's rated PG-13 for some... I always forget my sign. Crap. Okay. It's rated PG-13 for some thematic elements, violence, and language. Final score, quality, 8.0 out of 10. Relevance, 6.5 out of 10. There's some stuff there to think and talk about, but you got to kind of look for it and work at it. So there you go. 8.0 out of 10 quality, 6.5 relevance. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you like this video, want to share it, and want more videos like this. That would really help me out. And then I hope you'll go and visit ChristianGeekCentral.com and visit some like-minded geeks there as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.